60 millimeters wide. What used to be thought of an outrageous proposal is now being gradually implemented into professional competition yo-yo manufacturing. So, why did it start to get popular? Why was it proposed in the first place? And is it a good option? In this video, I'll be reviewing the 3 new bimetal 60 millimeter competition yo-yos, if it's a good idea to have competition yo-yos this wide, and if these 3 yo-yos specifically are worth it. Now, without further ado, let's get into this. So how did making a yo-yo this wide even start? Why are people even thinking about making yo-yos this wide anyways? Well, if you look at the evolution of yo-yos in general, you'll notice that they're always constantly getting wider. Now this is because it is easier to catch the string on the yo-yo if it is wider. So when you're yo-yoing, you'll notice it is much easier to land the yo-yo on the string for certain tricks. And the reason I say certain is because with every good thing comes one problem: intricate tricks. Now, the huge counter-argument to wide yo-yos and why most people are staying away from this concept is because, say, if you're trying to maneuver the yo-yo through separate strings and trying to... Now, let me just give you an example of something. So, if you go pick up a competition yo-yo from the year 2000, it's very tiny. Super slim, like 30 millimeters wide, something like that. And people used to think, oh my gosh, 40 millimeters wide is so wide, it's going to be impossible to hit our tech tricks. Tech yo-yos are currently 45 millimeters wide, average. So that explains that just with time, people will adapt to this thing. And the reason is, as Evan Nagao once said, if I can get you... This entire room is carpet. Okay, it's not that bad. As Evan Nagao once said, now this isn't exactly what he said, but it's something like this: if I can get used to my tech tricks with the wide yo-yo, then hitting everything else just becomes infinitely easier. And as Evan Nagao once said, if I can get used to this... And as Evan Nagao once said, if I can get used to a yo-yo being this wide, then I can just get... Now this is a really good concept because... if you think about it, like, the reason that people are staying away from yo-yos at this width is because at the beginning, doing your intricate tricks is hard. But again, if you get used to it, then everything else becomes easier. And even if doing your tech tricks was a little bit harder and you only get somewhat used to it, unless you're like Zach Gormley, in most cases, it is worth it for those high speed, high precision, super difficult horizontal combos. So in my opinion, yes it is. And don't start flaming me in the comments because
I have a point here.
And now, where do we think the limit should be for this? Now, I remember even less than a year ago, 50 millimeters wide was considered this crazy concept. Nobody would adapt to it. People were saying 50 millimeter wide yo-yos were too wide. And now I see a lot of people, even people who their entire style is a spider web of strings, using things close to or about 50 millimeters. In time, people will be using 60 millimeters. It might seem crazy by now, but it was crazy at some point using 40 millimeters. So, I'm just going to show you something real quick. This yo-yo right here is Outlier 1. Now, this thing back in the day used to be considered pretty medium, pretty average. It wasn't a thin yo-yo, wasn't too wide either, right? This is around like 2018, 2019. Now, we look at the upgraded version of it, Outlier 2. If you look at it, Outlier 2 is a tad bit wider, and then by the time this was out, it was okay. Then Outlier 3, and then by the time Outlier 3 was out for a while, people were starting to call it thin. Again, this would have been wide when Outlier 1 released. Now here we have Outlier Plus. 50 millimeters wide, used to be considered a beast even just a year ago. Crazy wide thing that nobody would adapt to. Here we are, people have adapted to it. Then Outlier plus started to be thin. Here we have Outlier 5, my competition yo-yo up until Worlds, 55 millimeters. Again, nobody could adapt to it. Now it's pretty, well, not yet exactly, but for me it's starting to be pretty average. Now, Outlier 6, 60 millimeters wide. This thing is starting to be considered wide. And once again, people aren't adapting to it. In 2 years, we'll go look back at this and it'll feel just like this. So, in my opinion, it is worth it to have 60 millimeters wide yo-yos. It just takes a little tiny bit to get used to the tech tricks, and overall, it makes a majority of your tricks easier to hit. Now let's get into the specific yo-yos. Which one's better? Which one's worse for your style? Which one should you get? Which one should you compete with if you want to compete with 60 millimeters? This yo-yo right here is Zenon Prime. Xavierong's signature tri-material yo-yo, which is constructed with 3 different materials, has an aluminum body, a stainless steel ring, and a plastic prime rim. That's what they call it. Just a plastic rim. It's made of Delrin, by the way. Now, the reason for this plastic rim right here is actually for a few reasons, and I'm very glad that this plastic rim exists. That's actually why I'm going to use it at my next yo-yo competition. But basically, the reason this plastic rim exists is if you look at the shape of the yo-yo, right, they wanted to, for this yo-yo, they wanted the stainless steel to give it a bunch of rim weight, but they didn't want to extend it too far. That would make it feel really heavy and sloppy. So they added this because you need to round off the yo-yo. Now this also serves as the bonus that if you ding it, it does less damage. It doesn't do no damage, it does less damage. And if you hit it on your head, it does less damage. This is Xavierong's signature yo-yo. Watch a Xavier routine and see around half of it is just crazy neck tricks over the head, get right next to your teeth, right next to your head. And they're very risky. This, like I do a lot of neck tricks, it's made a lot of it much more bearable. And the fact that it's 60 millimeters wide also helps a lot. It's also pretty rounded, but angular enough that the string funnels in effectively. So it's crazy at horizontal, crazy at any like neck trick. Next up, Outlier 6. This thing is also 60 millimeters wide, but it is very different from Zenon Prime. This one right here has a different focus to push all the rim to the very edge. If you like do this, you'll see that there's like a lip of weight right here, which pushes all of that rim weight right to the, well, not all of it, but a lot of it right to the edge. That's what they were aiming for. It also has a different shape. It's a triple cut shape. It's also a complete wraparound rim, contrary to the Zenon Prime, which has the plastic right there. So it also is less rounded here, so it'll hit you. And it is more angular. This is meant to be an angular yo-yo. Now, one thing that I do not like about this and why I'm not competing in it is the level of torque and slowness that it has. Now, don't get me wrong. I loved the Outlier 5, but, oh my God, this feels so small in my hand. Look at the rim structure right here, okay? That's flat, so the weight is spread out more evenly. It still is very outpushed, but not as much. Now, you might be wondering what torque is. So, when you throw a yo-yo down, do you ever get that little sound, even if you had a good bind? And when you throw it down, instead of making a nice smooth arc, it kind of goes down straight down, and it feels like it's just going to come back at you. If you've ever used a yo-yo like the orange, which is like this big, you'll understand what I mean. You'll know what torque feels like. Like when you throw a breakaway, it just won't go far out and it's super slow. And then when you do your tricks, it's really slow. And don't get me wrong, this still is a great yo-yo. But for me personally, I like fast yo-yos. This is just too slow for me. So for some people like Brandon, this would be an amazing competition yo-yo. But for me, this is just too slow. But it still is a great yo-yo. If I had the choice to compete with this or Outlier 5, I would still compete with this. But mainly it's because of the width. If I just had something to play around with, I would do Outlier 5. Last but not least, Logic 2. Now this thing is very different from the other ones. Instead of having like a rim and then like curved down into it, it just has a V shape. So it's a rim and then straight down, unless you count the little lip, but nobody really counts that. And this actually makes the yo-yo feel very different. It makes it feel more solid in your hand. But one thing is that at least it feels like, I'm not sure if this is accurately correct, the least rim weight out of the other yo-yos. Don't get me wrong, still is a lot of rim weight, definitely enough rim weight. But this causes it to feel very floaty. Now, if you don't know what floaty means, then you've either not tried a floaty yo-yo or you live under a rock. A floaty yo-yo, like when you throw it down, it's as if you're using a brand new super elastic straight. It feels elastic and it feels nice and light and maneuverable. That's what I love about this yo-yo. And it's one of my favorite yo-yos ever. It's just so incredibly amazing. It's 60 millimeters wide, so it hits the string easily. It's floaty. It's one of the floatiest yo-yos I've ever tried that actually has rim weight. Most floaty yo-yos, they'll spin for about this much. Okay, not exactly, but they'll spin for much less. This thing, they somehow managed to achieve crazy spin power, crazy stability during crazy horizontal tricks, but they also kept it floaty. So this is also an amazing competition choice. So those are the 3 new Offset YoYo competition yo-yos. I think these are all worth it, but it really just depends on your style. Of course, you could go for a different yo-yo because these yo-yos in diameter are also big. You might want something more rounded, lighter. You might want a starlight. You might want other types of yo-yos because width isn't the only factor that goes into yo-yos. So, like, it's fine if you want other yo-yos. These are just the 3 main 60 millimeter competition yo-yos at the moment. If you want to buy one of these, not yet, but they will, or maybe by the time you're watching this, because I have the worst upload schedule in the world. But they might be available on offsetyoyo.com to buy. Offset YoYo has a bunch of other yo-yos, but that's another video. So I hope you enjoyed. I just realized my face has been out of the cameras.
Bruh. Oh my God!
So I hope you enjoyed the video, and please consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. It really, really helps out a lot. You guys have no idea.